Hi friends, it's Lila Little bringing you another episode of Rabbit Tales, The Adventures of Lila and Bandit. Bandit is my longest term partner, as you already know. He and I arrived at our human's house on the very same day. Back then, I was only about 7 weeks old, and Bandit, he was about 6 weeks. I weighed less than 1 pound, just a few ounces actually, and Bandit was even smaller than me. We adopted our human that very same day. The human didn't have any problems bonding us because we were only tiny little kits. A few years later, Roland Thumper Tiny joined us. I already told you that in another story. That was a bit of a bonding process, though. We wanted Roland to live with us, so we were patient with our human as she introduced us and eventually got us living in the same primary space. It didn't take very long. Me and Bandit had already decided that we wanted Roland to live with us. That made things a lot easier on our human. A lot of you humans already know this, but it's worth repeating. When us rabbits choose a partner, or several partners, a bonding process needs to take place. How would you like to be forced to live with someone you don't even know? Well, that is how us bunnies feel when a human forces us together with no introductions and no proper bonding process in place. I know what most of you must be thinking. I would never do that to a rabbit. Well, I'm glad you wouldn't do that to us rabbits. That's awesome. Thank you. But the truth is, a whole lot of humans still do that today. Most of the time, forcing us rabbits together without even letting us get to know each other ends up really badly. We can get injured and even die from being forced to live together too soon. Bandit goes on a rant when he hears about humans who force rabbits to live in the same space without even properly introducing them. "How rude," he shouts. "It's against all rabbit rights. Humans should know better by now." Bandit goes on and on whenever he hears our human talking to other humans about why it is not safe or smart to skip over introductions and use a proper bonding process. Even though Bandit can be energetic when it comes to rabbit safety, this is one topic where I agree with him. He always says that humans who think it's okay to just toss several rabbits into the same living space together, they are listening to the wrong people about us rabbits. Let's face it, there are still a lot of humans out there who share really bad information about us rabbits. Some humans even believe that whatever they use a rabbit for should determine how the rabbit is treated. You and I know that is ridiculous, but that is how some humans think. And unfortunately, they teach that to other humans. And then more humans think that way. It's a rabbit mess. Even our human gets frustrated sometimes when she sees other humans showing people bad practices about us rabbits. That is one of the few times when we will hear our own human rant. She always says that it's not okay to mistreat rabbits, period. Whether the rabbit is used for purposes other than pet ownership makes no difference whatsoever. Treating all living things with anything less than kindness and providing proper care, that's not about the animal. It's about the human. And our human says that bad humans treat animals poorly. That is what she says. One time, Bandit and I were watching our human, Jana. She was on her 5th straight day of introducing 2 rabbits who did not get along. They weren't rabbits that lived here. Our human was working with 2 rabbits that belonged to other humans. Those rabbits were named Jack and Jill. Well, Jack and Jill weren't having it. They wanted nothing to do with any bonding process. Now, to be fair, Jack kind of did, but Jill, she definitely wasn't having it. Every single time the human got them close together, one would start boxing at the other. Usually Jill would go after Jack. Bandit and I were laughing and laughing and laughing. It was hilarious to watch. The human just kept telling them that they needed to be friends because their human needed them to live together when they went back to their own house. A few more days went by, and Bandit and I heard the human. She was starting her next bonding session one day with Jack and Jill. She told both of the rabbits that today they would share space. Her exact words to them were, "There will be no more boxing and lunging today, right?" Human looked right at Jack and then back at Jill. Both rabbits just stared at each other. It was like they were actually excited for the opportunity to start another hassle. Human continued calmly talking to them both. "Look, you have both healed up from your alteration surgeries. You are both healthy. You have had plenty of exercise. You have been introduced and lived beside each other for quite a while now at your own house. So, we are going to do this bonding session today with no problems. Do we agree? No problems?" Of course, Bandit and I were watching these bonding sessions as if we were at the movies or something, just watching intently to see what would happen next. Every day, Jack and Jill had entertained us. They had also surprised the human. They were being stubborn, but that is what us rabbits do sometimes. We need a little more time to get used to other rabbits. It's just a fact. Well, on that day when human asked Jack and Jill to agree with her, that today there wouldn't be any bonding problems, Bandit and I just looked at each other and chuckled. Bandit said, "We'll see about that." We both gazed intently as our human moved Jack closer to Jill. She put them nose to nose, and at the same time, she petted them on both of their heads. They just sat there, thinking it was the other rabbit that was doing the grooming. And it worked. The rabbits weren't having any more hassles. They weren't lunging at one another or boxing. They were both calm and relaxed. "Well played, human," Bandit said. "That was a good idea," I replied. "Maybe today will be the day Jack and Jill share the same space after all." Bandit was still skeptical, and so was I. After all, in the past few days, we saw a lot of problems between these two rabbits. For example, every single bonding session, Jack would chase Jill around the enclosure. Human just watched as it happened over and over again. Jill would spin around and box at Jack's nose. It was so funny to watch. Jill would lunge at Jack every time he got within a few inches of her. Then she would hop over to a corner, put her hind end against the pet fencing, and stay in a ready-to-attack position. Ready to defend herself, ready to let Jack know, once again, that she was not interested in being his bonded partner, at least not that day. Of course, our human was in the enclosure with them this whole time. That is her habit during all bonding sessions. She always sits in the middle of the enclosed area. That is so she can easily intervene if the bunnies should start actually fighting. Us rabbits can fight to the death over mating, food, and territory. That might be a rare thing for humans to actually witness, but it has happened. What is more common is that one of the bunnies can end up really injured. Some of those injuries are serious enough that the rabbits have to go to the white coats to have surgery. That's never happened in our house, but it can happen. Anyway, that day after Human told Jack and Jill that today would be a bonding day with no problems, she was right. Jack and Jill ended up friends that very day. Good friends, in fact. They did not spend the night together that day, but they did the next day. And the following day, they got to go home to their own humans. Bandit and I were a little sad about that because, honestly, we were having a good time watching those two every single day. But since the humans' intention was to get Jack and Jill living together safely in their own space, it was all a success. Me and Bandit have watched other rabbits during bonding sessions, too. One of the bunnies that stayed here quite a while, her name is Lolly. She's a lionhead rabbit with a very difficult past. She was kept in a cage and fed really unhealthy foods and was sick when she showed up. It was a mess. She was a bit aggressive when she arrived. Our human worked with her to rehabilitate her. After rehabilitation, Lolly was adopted by our human sister. We call our human sister Auntie M. Auntie M is one of our neighbors, so Lolly has spent a lot of time here with us. Early on, Lolly made it very clear to our human that she was not interested in any other rabbit partners, none whatsoever. Now, Bandit and I already knew that that was going to be the case with Lolly. It was going to be extremely difficult to bond her, a very long bonding process. We could tell by her behavior and just how she acted. Plus, she already had a partner. His name was Ted. Lolly and Ted have been together for years. Lolly was not interested in having another partner. She just wanted to live with Ted. Some rabbits are like that. It works for them. It is true that rabbits thrive when we live in pairs or even warrens. Now, when I say warren, I'm not talking about the kind of warren outside, which is a network of underground tunnels that us rabbits can dig. Those outside warrens protect rabbits that live outdoors from weather and predators, and, well, you get the point. What I'm talking about is a group of rabbits, warren. Us rabbits are social animals, and we do need bonded partners, or at least a lot of socialization with our humans. If we don't have partners or any socialization, we get depressed. In fact, it can really be a suffering life for us if we have not been properly socialized or we don't have contact with other living things. I guess the purpose of today's story is just to say, be careful with bonding. Get advice from people who have actually done safe bonding over and over. Also, get advice from humans who understand our body language and how we communicate with other rabbits. That is very important, because if humans don't learn to listen to us, we can wind up hurt, or we suffer. With bonding, it's always safety first. Tossing one or more rabbits together without proper introductions or any bonding process in place is not safe for most of us anyway, and it's not a very kind thing to do. Bandit always says that humans must not be able to learn very well since rabbits are still suffering all over the world. I remind him that we have to focus on the humans who are committed to best practices. I once heard the human tell a story to a new rabbit owner who was dropping off her rabbits at our house. Our human was going to work with her rabbits and then take the rabbits back home after the problem was resolved. She asked our human how she can stand to work with so many rescued rabbits that have really sad stories, come from harsh pasts, since we know we can't help them all. Our human then asked this other rabbit owner if she had ever heard the starfish story by Lauren Isley. The other rabbit owner said no, she hadn't ever heard of that. So, our human went on to tell the story of how a bunch of starfish had washed up on the beach. A young boy was picking them up one by one and tossing them back into the ocean. A man was walking along the beach and saw the boy doing this. He asked the boy why he was tossing the starfish into the ocean. The boy said that the tide was going out, and if he didn't throw the starfish back in the water now, they would all die. The man told the boy that there were miles of beach and hundreds of starfish, and that it wouldn't make any difference. The boy patiently listened to the man, but then bent over, picked up another starfish, and threw it back into the ocean. He responded to the man by saying, "I made a difference to that one."